plans for the off season and possibly playing or just doing individual workouts?
Yeah, I mean, probably take a little bit of a break here, just for maybe a week. I don't really want to lose kind of the stuff I've worked on, and just trying to get my body back to full health. There's some USA back.
For the past 48 hours, the internet has been in complete disarray. And if you have been following the development of women's basketball, even on a casual basis, you are aware of the reasons behind the rumors that Caitlin Clark, the undisputed face of the sport and the rookie who changed the WNBA's financial situation on her own, was finally over the disrespect. There were rumors that she was preparing to go to a different location, a different league, or possibly a whole other squad. After seeing the leaked offers and the headlines, we now have clarity. Caitlin has officially made a move that alters the sports environment after a season marked by hard fouls, envious competitors, and a league establishment that seemed to detest her very existence. Is she, however, permanently departing Indiana? Or are the casual followers unaware of something much more significant going on behind the scenes? We must remove the layers of what has been the most turbulent rookie season in sports history in order to see the whole picture. You must consider the battleground she recently experienced in order to comprehend why the announcement of a new squad is upending the sports world. It was more than simply basketball the moment she set foot on a WNBA court. It was an open conflict. The instant the cameras were on Caitlin, we witnessed veterans who had spent years saying they wanted the game to grow suddenly launching cheap shots, hip checks, and hard fouls. It seemed well-coordinated. It was nasty and felt intimate. Of course, Kennedy Carter's cheap shot during the Chicago Sky game was the most notorious incident. Not even the ball was in play. Carter slammed Caitlin to the ground with a shoulder check that resembled a linebacker blitz rather than a basketball play as she was waiting for the incoming pass. IT started a nationwide conversation about league jealousy. The supporters witnessed the truth, despite the media's attempts to minimize it as a competitive fire. Even though she was making millions of dollars for the league and chartering flights for clubs that had previously operated commercial flights, she was still treated like an outsider within her own organization. However, there were other indications that the establishment didn't want her besides the physical assaults. The announcement of the Olympic roster was the pinnacle of disrespect and the catalyst for the reports that she was quitting the WNBA system. The selection committee left her home even though she led the league in assists, sold out arenas more quickly than any athlete in the nation, and was the sole reason millions of people were watching. Fans and insiders alike conjectured that it was wholly personal, despite their claims that it was about seniority and expertise. They didn't want the veterans who had been waiting for their chance in Paris to be overshadowed by the Caitlin Clark spectacle. That rejection wasn't only painful. It made it quite evident that the old guard would not grant her entry regardless of what she did. The ultimate irony was witnessing Team USA perform in front of largely empty arenas in Paris, while Caitlin Clark was at home recuperating and getting ready to break records. And that's precisely when the other offers began to come in. Other organizations were prepared to empty the bank vault in order to free her, while the WNBA was preoccupied with disputing her value and attempting to dehumanize her. At this point, the narrative shifts into the realm of finance. Ice Cube and the Big Three League were the first. This was a big endorsement deal. This was a proposal that made history. In exchange for her playing a few games, Ice Cube made a huge $5 million offer. To put that in perspective, she made about $76,000 as a rookie in the WNBA. In order to escape the poisonous WNBA and play with the males, Ice Cube offered her generational wealth that would change her life. Opponents yelled that she ought to accept the money and flee. They contended that if the WNBA wasn't willing to defend her on the court, they didn't deserve her allegiance. In the end, she declined it in order to remain devoted to the women's game. However, there was a cost to that commitment. It demonstrated that she was greater than the league in which she was competing, and the establishment was petrified by that power dynamic. This leads us to the new team headlines that are currently taking over your feed. The off-season market has been severely disrupted, and it revolves around a brand new league known as Unrivaled. Superstars Breanna Stewart and Nafisa Collier founded this league, which will debut in Miami to directly compete for viewers during the off-season. It's more than just a pickup game. The status quo is directly challenged. They wanted more than simply Caitlyn to participate. They allegedly made her an offer akin to that of Lionel Messi. We're talking about complete creative control over her brand, a huge salary that surpasses anything in the WNBA, and equity in the league. There was a lot of conjecture. She would play on a carefully chosen lineup intended to showcase her abilities if she joined Unrivaled. Fans were pleading with her to join, far from the rough-and-tumble politics and slow-moving coaching of the WNBA, so she could realize her full potential without being pursued every night by players who didn't like her salary. The unique circumstance is intriguing because it highlights the WNBA model's financial flaws. The players have been underpaid for decades, as evidenced by the fact that a new league can come in and offer the biggest star in the world a deal that includes ownership and equity. Money wasn't the only factor in Caitlyn's decision. She has a lot of that thanks to her $28 million contracts with Nike and Gatorade. It had to do with the environment and respect. A 3-on-3 structure that allows players greater room to play is promised by the unparalleled league. This is an ideal situation for a shooter and playmaker like Clark. It gets rid of the paint clogging and the double teams that irritated her. When word leaked out early in the WNBA season that Unrivaled was keeping a wild card place just for her and was waiting until the very last minute for her to say yes, the rumor mill went into overdrive. It was a calculated move that demonstrated their willingness to compromise their organization's entire structure in order to add her to the roster. However, the actual new team unveiling took place in Indiana when everyone was watching Miami and anticipating the unparalleled news. At last, the Fever front office awoke. They cleaned up after witnessing their best players sustain injuries for months without making any changes and seeing the team struggle to win games they ought to have won. Christy Sides, the head coach, was fired. Fans had been calling for this action since June. Although Sides was well-liked on a personal level, she didn't seem capable of mentoring a star of Clark's generation. We saw the widely shared videos of Caitlyn on the sidelines, shaking her head, appearing irritated, and occasionally clearly disagreeing with the play decisions. Because of the offensive stagnation, Clark was frequently forced to pass the ball to players who had lesser shooting percentages, so neutralizing their greatest asset. The Fever acknowledged that the trust-the-process strategy wasn't working by firing Sides. Then followed the hire that completely altered the situation. Stephanie White was formally employed by the Fever. This is more than a staffing adjustment. In actuality, it is a new aim. In Indiana, Stephanie White is a legend. There, she was the Miss Basketball. When the Fever won their lone championship in 2012, she was an assistant coach and a player for the team. More significantly, though, she has a contemporary coaching mindset. She just left the Connecticut Sun, where she transformed an injury-plagued squad into a defensive powerhouse and a postseason contender. She is aware of the contemporary game of space and pace. White's philosophy is based on speed, rapid judgments, and maximizing attacking skill, in contrast to the old approach, which frequently appeared cumbersome and ponderous. Caitlyn is not simply going back to the same old struggle by announcing this move. She is entering a completely redesigned system designed with her in mind. There is no new jersey for the new team. The Fever squad has finally figured out how to make use of her. Let's examine why Caitlyn is essentially joining a new squad as a result of this coaching move. Caitlyn was frequently required to start the offense from nearly half court under the previous system, handling aggressive blitzes and traps while her teammates remained still. Player movement and cutting are hallmarks of Stephanie White's approach. Caitlyn won't have to handle everything by herself as a result. She will have a coach that understands how to keep players open, how to penalize defenses for double teaming, and how to physically defend her best player. Caitlyn severely lacked White's reputation for being tough on officials and standing up for her players in the media during her rookie season. The Fever bench's reaction to Chennedy Carter knocking Caitlyn down was, at best, indifferent. If someone touches Stephanie White's point guard, you can expect that there will be instant repercussions. For Caitlyn to progress from Rookie of the Year to MVP, she needs this protection. The drama isn't quite finished, though, as the expansion draft is part of the new team narrative. Indiana supporters believe that things are changing too quickly as a result of the Golden State Valkyries joining the league. The rules for expansion are complex. The emergence of a new team in the Bay Area, supported by the enormous resources of the Golden State Warriors' ownership, alters the balance of power. Even while the Fever may shield its main players like Clark and Aaliyah Boston, there were persistent but probably baseless reports that Golden State would attempt to exchange the farm for Clark's Warriors jersey, matching her with the Steph Curry brand synergy. Even though it doesn't appear likely right now, the fact that it's being talked indicates how unstable the situation is. She is desired by every squad. Her celebrity power is what the New York Liberty wants. Her shooting is desired by the Las Vegas Aces. Indiana is aware that if they don't start winning titles right away, they are on borrowed time. We also need to discuss the collaborative nature of this new era. The growth of the players surrounding her, particularly Aaliyah Boston, is a part of the new team reality. By the end of the season, Boston and Clark had created a deadly pick-and-roll game after a difficult beginning where the chemistry seemed wrong, primarily because of the lack of practice time and a convoluted offensive scheme. The Clark-Boston tandem is anticipated to become the Shaq and Kobe of the WNBA with the arrival of Stephanie White, a coach who specializes in developing post players. The annoyance we witnessed early in the season, when passes were mishandled and there was no spacing, ought to be history. Without making any trades, this internal enhancement basically provides Caitlin a new supporting cast. Although the players are the same, there will be a significant difference in how they are used. However, the elephant in the room must not be ignored: the reports of a player uprising. There were persistent rumors throughout the rookie season that players in the league were fed up with the Caitlin Clark circus. Legends like Cheryl Swoops made comments that minimized Caitlin's records by falsely citing statistics, saying it took her 4 years to break a record that she actually broke in less time. The warning that Diana Taurasi's reality is approaching seemed more like a threat than a piece of counsel. Caitlin's new team era is also about her.